Sol Vete Omnes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Caesar's Gallic Wars. We left off at call it a cliffhanger. We finished 36, part 36 of book 5 last video. And Cotta and Titurius have been discussing going and talking about a truce, I guess, a ceasefire with Ambiorix. Or at least Titurius has. Cotta thinks it's a stupid idea. And Titurius doesn't see the problem. Or at least seemed to think that it would be all okay, which is why he suggested it to Cotta, right? But Cotta finally puts his foot down, and at the very end, Cotta says that he would not go to an armed enemy, and he perseveres in this statement, in this opinion. So he's like, no, I'm not going to go. No, really, I'm not going. So we will pick up in section 37 and see what happens. So Sabinus, quos in praesentia tribunos militum circum se habebat, et primorum ordinum centuriones, se sequi iubet, et cum propius ambiorigem accessis et, usus armas abicera imperatum facit, suisque ut idem faciant imperat. Alright, so Sabinus, which is Titurius, right? Quintus Titurius Sabinus, and Lucius Aurunculeius Cotta. So, Sabinus is the idiot. And it's important to kind of keep their names separate. Because Caesar calls them by different things, and so I've got to keep reminding myself, wait, now, who's Sabinus? Was he the one that was stupid or not? So, yes. Sabinus is Titurius, who's an idiot. Sabinus, you bet. We're going to jump down to my verb here because there's a lot of stuff going on in the middle. Sabinus orders how do I want so you got a relative clause here, right? And I want to put it all with that. And what you have here is where Caesar's done this before. He puts the antecedent within the relative clause. So to tribunos, and I think centuriones here as well, are behaving as antecedents for quos. So it's kind of literally like the relative clause, the most basic form of the relative clause here is which he had around him in his presence, which is somewhat redundant, but basically the things which he had around him. I'm trying to think of a better way of saying that in English. I'm in Latinglish mode right now. But basically, the tribunes of the soldiers, which he had around him in his presence, and the centurions of the first rank, which he had around him in his presence. So basically, kind of his, I'll say personal. I'll refer to him as a personal guard, but I think it's just kind of like the ones that he is more or less in charge of. The tribunes and the centurions that he has around him, he orders them all to follow him. And, cum clause, when he had approached nearer to Ambiorix, Propius, a comparative form of, you could refer to it as a comparative of the preposition prope. Prope means near. Propius is nearer. So he approached nearer Ambiorix. So when he had done that, having been ordered to throw away his weapons, he did, having been commanded. So usus arma abicera is your perfect, it's just a participle phrase describing Sabinus. It's not an ablative absolute, but it has kind of the idea of an ablative absolute where it's just this kind of participial phrase kind of as an aside. Sabinus did what was ordered. That is, having been ordered to throw away his weapons. Because he's an idiot. And he orders his men to do the same thing. Ut idem faciant, indirect command off of imprat. So he does what he's told, he does the command, and he orders his men to do the same. So again, a reminder. The Romans have been ambushed by the Gauls. They are losing, which is why Sabinus wants to go and kind of get Ambiorix to stop. Ambiorix says, as he approaches, say, whoa, put your weapons down, and then we'll talk. And so Ambiorix is like, yeah, sure. I don't see anything wrong with putting my weapons down in the middle of a fight as I'm face to face with the enemy, because. Well, you can perhaps guess what's going to happen. Spoiler hint. Interim dum de conditionibus inter se agunt, langior qua consultu ab ambiorige instituitur sermo, palatem circumventus interficitur, because he's an idiot. Meanwhile, while they are literally like they're acting between each other. They're going back and forth, perhaps, would be a way of translating that. They're doing, or you could say agunt. Agunt's a very general verb, right? Just meaning to do. Like they're talking among themselves about the conditions. That is, about the conditions of surrender. Hey, if we do this, then you'll do this, and if you do this, then we'll do this, and right. So while they are discussing conditions, a conversation or a sermon, a speech, longer than usual. So I want to take consulto, the ablative of comparison, longer than he's used to. No, that's not what I want. Do I have a different version? I've always wanted it to be. Yeah. No. So how do I want to take that? Sorry. So Longior, I wanted it to be just a comparative with a comparative. No. Sorry. This is an ablative or a comparative just on its own, which means like rather long or perhaps too long would be a good way of translating it. So, So this conversation, a rather long, and this is why I translate, I think, as longer than usual, because it's longer than it needs to be, right? Which is why you could say it's too long. This rather long speech is begun by the consulted Ambiorix, so with him having been consulted, right? So it's like, so Ambiorix, what do you think we should do? Like, what would you like to see the Romans do? So assuming that Sabinus asks something like that, so Ambiorix, having been consulted, he begins this rather long conversation. So while they're talking about these things, and while this conversation is begun, Circumventus, I want Palatim to go with Circumventus. I think that makes the most sense. Having been surrounded little by little, he is killed. And that's going all the way back up with Sabinus up here. Or, yeah, I think it's still going with Sabinus, though, even though he's not mentioned in this sentence. So Sabinus is killed. Titurius is killed because he's an idiot. Ambiorix is clearly distracting him. He and all of his men, Sabinus and all of his men, have put their weapons down. And then it's like, so, what would you like us to do? Like, what is it going to take to get you to go? And Ambiorix, if you've ever looked up a recipe online and you get this whole long family story, the family history of this recipe and why we like to eat this food, that's kind of like what Ambiorix has done here. It's like, well, let's remember that you Romans were the ones who kind of started this whole thing, and we Gauls just yearn for freedom. We don't want to be enemies with Romans. We just want to be free for ourselves. And blah, 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 blah. And while he's going on about this, before he actually gets to what he wants the Romans to do, his armed men, I love this palatum, having been started little by little. So you just know it's like he's like rehearsed this speech, and his men like have cues. It's like, okay, every other sentence, take 2 steps in. Take 2 steps in. Draw your swords when I say, this, and then. So Sabinus, I don't know how he got to. I don't know how he got to this position to be a commander because he's clearly an idiot. Either that or maybe he was good, but Caesar just, I don't know. Caesar certainly does not paint him in a good light here. And it's like, who put him in command? Was it Caesar or was it somebody else? I don't know. Sorry, I have gone into a longio sermo, so let's continue. Tum vero suo more victoriam conclamat, adque ululatum tolunt, impetuque in nostros facto ordines perturbant. Then indeed, in their custom, in their usual way, suo more, they shout victory, or they claim victory, perhaps. After all, they have just killed one of the commanders of the camp. And they raise a shout, they raise a howl, an ululo, right? And, ablative absolute, with an attack made against our men in nostros, translated as against here, they upset the ranks, they disturb the ranks, the columns, the arrangement of the Romans. Sad sentence. Ibi Lucius Cotta pugnans interficitor et cum maxima parte militum. And I think this is a simple but well crafted sentence by Caesar. There, that is with the ranks being all disturbed and everything, Lucius Cotta fighting is killed. And I think that's really important considering it's a present active participle, right? Cotta is actively engaged in trying to defend himself and his men. He's actively fighting back. And it's going on, right? It's ongoing. Present active. It's like, I feel like every part of the fact that this is a present active participle is important. Considering that Sabinus, and the same verb, right? Interficitor. Cotta is killed fighting. Sabinus is killed having been surrounded little by little. It's perfect. It's passive. So you just like, obviously the passive idea, right? Sabinus has nothing to do with his own death. He's just kind of like there when it happens. So the passive idea, the fact that it's perfect, like it was kind of like already, like this action was already done and taken care of before he was killed. Like nothing was interrupted. It's like you were surrounded and then he was killed. Whereas Cotta was like to his last breath. So I really think that's important on Caesar's part. He's really kind of emphasizing the difference in their death. Sabinus was passive, Cotta was active. So, and also Cotta is killed cum maxime parte militum, with the greatest part of the soldiers. So this is where most of the army, well, at least of these legions, meet their doom. Very sad. If you're a Roman. Reliqui se incasso recipiunt unde erant egressi. The remaining soldiers, understood, se recipiunt, they retreat. Literally, they recover themselves into the camp. So they retreat into the camp from where they had set out. So some of the soldiers are able to escape. And they were able to return to the camp from which they had set out. All right. But, it's less than half of them, right? Because the greatest part of the soldiers has been killed at this point. Ex quibus Lucius Petrosidius Aquilefer cum magna multitudine ostium premaretur aquilam intra volum proiecit ipse procastris fortissime pugnans occiditur. From them, out of them, that is, out of these soldiers who had returned to the camp, Lucius Petrosidius, the Aquilefer, this is the standard bearer, the flag carrier, while he was being pressed or attacked by a great multitude of the enemy, through the aquila, through the eagle, or through the standard inside the ramparts, inside the wall. Because again, you want to protect the ramparts. You want to protect, or not the ramparts. You want to protect the standard. That's kind of like the symbol of the Roman army. And so you don't want that to fall into the enemy's hands. And so he is about to be captured. He's definitely in danger of losing it. So he takes it and he throws it inside the camp. So they'll have to like breach the camp walls to get it, which, I mean, they probably will. The Romans aren't going to be there to, there aren't many Romans left to defend the camp, but at least it defends it for a little bit longer, blah, blah, blah. So he throws it into the camp. He himself, in front of the camp, fighting very bravely, is killed. So the standard bearer dies, but for at least a little bit protects the standard. Again, Pugnons, Occiditor, he's actively fighting very bravely, right? Again, the standard bearer behaving more honorably than Sabinus, who's an idiot. I'll stop saying that when I'm finished with this passage. We no longer have to deal with Titurius. Illi aegre ad noctem appugnationem sustinet. Noctu ad unum omnes desperata salute se ipsi interficiunt. Those men, that is the ones that have made it to the camp, they sustain the attack into the night weakly. So like they hold them the Gauls out, but they're not doing a very good job of it. They're doing it, but weakly, sickly, right? Poorly, aegre. In the night, or at night, all of them, ablative absolute, with their safety despaired of, all of them, very emphatic here, they themselves kill themselves ad unum, to the man. So, like, literally all of them, to the man, kill themselves. It's not like most of them did it and there's like 4 or 5 left. No, like there are 0 living soldiers in the camp. That unum ad unum, very emphatic, especially with the omnes and the ipsi. All of them themselves kill themselves to the man. Again, very sad for the Romans. Very, I won't say disgraceful, but definitely not a bright spot for the Roman army, or at least not this legion. So those are the ones, I guess, who make it to the camp. Pauci ex proleo lapsi incertis itineribus per silvas ad titum labienum legatum in hiberna perveniunt atque eum de rebus gestis certiorem faciunt. So a few of them, having slipped from the battle, having escaped from the battle, in uncertain journeys, or by uncertain paths, ablative of means, per silvas, through the forest, they come or arrive to Titus Labienus, the legate, in his camp. So they arrive into the camp at Titus Labienus, and they make him more certain, right? They inform him, they make him more certain about the things that happened, de rebus gestis. Which is how Caesar would know about all this, right? Caesar wasn't here, because if Caesar was here, they would have won. So how is Caesar able to talk about all of this if he wasn't there? Somebody must have survived. And so you get, it's these people right here who are probably the ones that are able to tell Caesar what happened. I don't know, maybe the Gauls took some prisoners, and then when Caesar comes and defeats them, he learns from them as well. But yeah, that's why Caesar knows about this, because there are at least a few people who were able to escape. And I really like this description. I don't know why. But they escape from the battle, right? And through uncertain journeys, by uncertain paths through the forest. So they kind of know it's all right, I need to go west or whatever. And they're just kind of there's no paths. They're just kind of running wildly through the woods in a general western direction until they can get to Labienus. So that essentially does it for that legion that Cotta and Sabinus were in charge of. Not a very positive ending there. And it's interesting because you've got 2 commanders here, and they have a legion and a half, because I believe if we go back to the top, when we first started, Caesar says that, where's Sabinus and Cotta? Yeah, for these soldiers, Quintus Titurius and Lucius Cotta were made legates, and to these, it's where was? Because I thought that like he got like a lot of the. Yeah, it's the sentence above. Sorry, I was trying to find it. So the one legion which he had most recently, kind of drafted across the Po, and 5 cohorts into the Eburones, which was under Ambiorix's control, right? And these soldiers he put Cotta and Titurius, Cotta and Sabinus in charge of. So you've got like a legion and a half, but it's a lot of rookies, right? The one legion which he had most recently conscripted. So perhaps one of the reasons that they don't do a very good job of surviving is because they're new. They're new recruits. So not a very positive ending. So let's go ahead and do 30 because that kind of ties up everything, and we'll call that a video. Hac victoria sublatus ambiorix statim cum equitatu in aduatukos, qui erant eus regno finitimi, proficiscitur. Neque noctem, neque diem intermittit periatumque subsequi iubet. Lifted up, I think, by this victory, sublatus, from tolora sustuli sublatus, literally to raise up, right? So having been raised up or elevated by this victory, Ambiorix immediately, with the cavalry, sets out, deponent verb, into the Aduatuci, who were neighbors to his kingdom, to his realm. And he does not let pass, neque intermittit, he does not let a night or a day pass, and he orders the infantry, the foot soldiers, to follow. So he is wasting no time. He immediately sends to the Aduatuci. He immediately sets out to the Aduatuci, and he orders the foot soldiers to follow basically immediately as well, right? He doesn't let a day or night pass before he gives this command. So we are just moving along if we're Ambiorix, because, and he said it as much, right? We have no ability to overpower the Roman soldiers, but they can put all their hope in speed and surprise and strategy, trickery. Re demonstrata, aduatucis quod concitatis postero die in nervios pervenit, horta turqua ne suium perpetuum liberandi atque ulcuscendi Romanos pro eis qua acciparent, in iuris occasionem dimittant. So I think we've got a couple of ablative absolutes, that's how I'm going to take it here. With the matter explained, demonstrated. So with the situation, I would say explained, and with the Aduatuci kind of stirred up, concitatis, incited. It's concited. I don't think we have that word in English, but with them incited, with them kind of, spurred into action. On the following day, he arrives among the Nervi, arrives into the Nervi region, and he encourages them, indirect command. He encourages them not, let's see. I'm trying to figure out how I want to arrange my verbs here. Yeah. He encourages them not to dismiss this occasion, an occasion of, we get a couple of gerundives here, to not dismiss the occasion of freeing themselves into perpetuity. Sui liberandi, genitive, gerundive phrase there, describing the occasion, right? What sort of occasion? Occasion of themselves being freed forever. and the occasion of avenging themselves against the Romans, of taking vengeance on the Romans. For those in Iuriis, pro eis in Iuriis, for these injuries or injustices which they had received. So here's your relative clause, or prepositional clause with a relative clause in it. Indirect command. So don't dismiss this occasion. Don't dismiss, don't let this occasion go by for freeing ourselves from the Romans and taking vengeance. I think I stopped there. I want to make sure that I read all the Latin, because why not? Interfectos esse legatos, duos, magnamque partem exercitus interesse demonstrat, nihil esse negoti subito oppressam legionem quae cum cicerone hiem et interfici, se ad eam rem profitetur adiutorem. Facile hac oratione neruis persuadit. These are the last two sentences. So he encourages them. And we get another indirect statement here off of demonstrate. He demonstrates, he points out that two legates, two commanders had been killed. Perfect passive infinitive. Two commanders had been killed, and a great part of the army, fourth declension genitive singular with a long US. A great part of the army had perished. And he says that, he demonstrates that, points out that nihil esse negoti, like, it's no big deal, is perhaps a very literal way of translating. Literally, there is nothing of business. So, basically kind of like, it's no big deal that a legion suddenly oppressed, suddenly kind of attacked the legion, which was wintering, or which is wintering with Cicero. It's no great undertaking that the legion, which is wintering with Cicero, being suddenly oppressed, is killed. It's in the passive here. I want to make it active, right? It's no big deal to kill or defeat the legion that's wintering with Cicero if it's suddenly attacked. He makes it passive. He says that it is no big deal that the legion be killed or be defeated, that is wintering with Cicero. Not the famous orator Cicero, but his brother. All right. And he professes, he says that I'd say will be, adiutorem, he will be an aid to this matter. He'll be a helper. So Ambiorix knows how to do this, right? He knows what has worked in the past, so he will definitely help others going forward. And easily, with this oration, with this speech, he persuades the Nervii. So Ambiorix has defeated one legion, or technically 2 legions. 1.5 legions and 2 commanders, as well as the great part of the army. All right, and says we can do it again, and I will help you do this. I know what to do. And the Nervii are like, hey, we've already done it once. Great, let's do it. So the Nervii are now going to try the same tactic against Cicero's camp. And if you're using the Moeller textbook, you have maps at the beginning of the book. You should have a map at the beginning of like the book 5 section, and you can see where all the different camps are. So you can kind of see how they're just going to be attempting to move their way across Gaul. Sabinus and Cotta are way up in the northeast, closest to Germany and whatnot, and Cicero should be just a little west of them. So he would be the next on the list. All right, so we will stop there for today's video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to message me, send me an email, hit me up in the comments down below. There will be no class for me for the next couple of weeks, but I'll still continue to post videos. So make use of those comments, make use of emails if you have any questions. If you'd like to see something else, if you'd like me to do something else for these videos, let me know, and I can switch up the format that I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of going through the passage and discussing it as we go through. But if you'd like to see something else, let me know, and I can see about adding some flavor to these videos. So I at least have a little bit of time to do that over the break. So until next time, as always, have a great rest of your day. I feel like I'm acting in class. This is a terrible ending to the video. Have a good one. I will see you next time. Waleta.